Hiya crafty folks, Amy here, and I have a pretty stenciled autumn card to share with you today. I am going to use one of the brand new stencils from A Colorful Life Designs. This is called Leaves and Acorns. It's a 6x6 stencil and it's part of the October release at A Colorful Life Designs. And I do have a coupon if you shop. If you use AmyFan10 at checkout, you'll save on your complete order. Now here's a photo of the finished card here. It came together really quickly. Lots of beautiful fall colors, and I am going to use some Catherine Pooler inks and stamps just to kind of tie the design together. So I have this lightweight and inexpensive craft cardstock. I do have it cut a little narrow, so it's 5.5 inches long, but I did kind of make it less wide, so it will have a nice white border on the card base when I attach it. So I'm just going to use my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station here and use the magnets to hold down the stencil, but you can of course use low-tack tape or pixie spray if you have it. And I just grabbed this myriad of little ink pads here that are all in fall colors, and I'm just going to use my blending brushes and go right over the stencil to create a simple fall inspired design. So I'm not really using any certain method here. I'm just kind of putting it down in spots. I think originally I was going to do like a rainbow almost of color, but then I decided to kind of hop around a bit. So I'm kind of thinking putting the colors in a few different spots on the composition and then moving on to the next. So all the colors work pretty well together. You don't really need to worry about muddying up so much when it comes to fall stuff, in my opinion, just because there are lots of browns in fall as well. So if you kind of blend some colors and it gets a little bit brown, in this instance it's not really going to matter because there's brown in fall too, right? So I'm working through with this lighter green and then ultimately the darker green. And then I do think I'd come back and put yellow in a different spot as well, just to kind of balance that out. But really there's no rhyme or reason here. I'm just kind of laying down the color all over the design and, going from there. It doesn't get much easier than this. So I'm coming in with a dark green. It's a little hard to see on screen, but there is some gradient in color when you look at it in person. And then once I'm done kind of filling up the front of the card panel, I decided to come in with this deeper red as well, just to add a little bit of drama into the scene here. So, but once I'm done with the ink blending, then I'm just basically going to remove the magnets to reveal the really pretty design. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think this would be a very versatile stencil in that it doesn't have to necessarily be fall. It would create a really pretty backdrop for any of those woodland stamps, or even a great idea for like a masculine type of card. So lots of options with this. I really like to think in terms of different ways that I can use products rather than how they're intended. Now, this is my first time using this. I bought this stamp set from Catherine Pooler. It has all these gorgeous autumn or fall inspired or Thanksgiving type of sentiments, and that was something that I really, despite my absurd stash of crafty supplies, I did not have a lot seasonally for fall. So I did want to get this stamp set. I really like how big the sentiments are. I think they're nice and imposing, and sometimes with my stencil work I just want kind of a sentiment that's going to be substantial and hold its own weight and not kind of get lost in the background. So stamps like that are really useful for me with the way that I craft, just because I'm creating so many of my own backgrounds. So here I'm just using the, I forget what they're called, corners, crafty corner, I don't know, some corner thing. I don't remember what it's called, but it's made by Misty, and it's like an add-on so you can use it inside your Misty. But I just used that to make sure that this stamp was nice and straight, and I conditioned it with my hand. So I just rubbed the manufacturer's goo off of the stamp just to make sure that it gets a nice even impression, and then I just stamp this down and press it with my press tool from Tailored Expressions. And I do stamp it a few times just because I want to make sure the pigment is nice and dark. And it says Hello Autumn. Upon looking at this, I'm realizing I should have moved it down a little bit farther in the composition. It was a little bit too high, but oh well, it worked out fine in the end. So once I get this as dark as I want it, then I'll move on to the next step. And I'm going to attach it to a card base. It's a 110-pound Nina Classic Crest Solar White. Just have some tape runner here, just running it along the back. Another option, if you wanted to pop it up, you could use some foam tape just to give it some additional dimension, but I just wanted to attach it right to the card base in this case. So I get a little bit extra off the side. It got a little too close to the edge. So just kind of rolling that back over on itself. And then I'm going to line it up, leaving the border on both sides. So it'll have an even white border on the left and the right, but it will kind of cover the full top to bottom of the A2 size card base. So basically I just cut a 1/4 inch off each side, or a 1/2 inch off on regular A2 size card base. And then it'll give you this nice border on the card. Now I just decided I want to add a little something extra, so I'm going to add some watercolor splatter. This is a little watercolor pan set that I recently got from Yuli, I think is how it's pronounced. And I will link it below in the video description box. But basically that little tin comes with those 6 metallics. And then I also purchased the additional charcoal color in a 1/2 pan size from the same company, and then just added that in because sometimes I like to do black splatter. So the way that I like to do this, I use my water brush pen just to drop a couple drops of water to activate the watercolor pans there. You kind of give it a minute to let it soak in, and then I put some of that with the water brush pen right on the edge of an acrylic block, and then I just use the water brush pen just to flick right onto the card base. Now I decided I don't want it to, it is a water reactive ink, and I don't want it to kind of blur my letters, so I'm just going to kind of cover it up with this low-tack mint tape from scrapbook.com. And then I just flick the watercolor right off the edge of the acrylic block just to kind of add some shimmer and some additional interest to this otherwise simple card. Then I have these warm coppery gold type colors that came in the set, so I thought they would work perfect. And look at all that glitter. Isn't that crazy? So much glitter in this. So I decided to come in with this more orangey kind of coppery color and do the same thing and just add those little flecks of glitter onto this card base. So you could absolutely do this with a regular watercolor brush, whatever you have. I just always have these watercolor brushes right at the ready on my desk, so they work really well for this for me, and they have the water built in so I can activate the watercolor. So that's it. You can see this gorgeous shimmer when I turn it in the light, but a really simple card came together quickly. So be sure to check out the rest of the release. There's lots of creepy Halloween stuff if that's your jam, and also pretty autumn inspired or fall inspired stencils as well. So if you do shop, don't forget my coupon AmyFan10 to save on your complete order, and I appreciate you spending time with me today. I'll check you next time. Bye.